Hello, Maritime Zone friends. It's Matt here today, bringing you the first part of a new mini-series we're going to be doing on the channel, where I, an amateur gardener, try to grow things. Today we're going to be looking at some of the seeds I planted in February, have a look at what worked, what didn't, and we're going to replant a few things here together. I thought this would be a really cute little way for us to spend some time together and go out and touch grass, so without further ado, grab your cuppers and settle in. So as you can tell from the echo in the room, we are out in the potting shed today because the bees are out in full force and you don't need to see me running away. It could be a little bit funny to do some stuff, and I will be out in the garden throughout parts of this series, so no doubt at some point you are going to see me running away and it'll be hilarious for you guys. But for me, for doing this very first part and just getting out what the series is going to be about, I thought it would be easier for me to just kind of do it in here. So my aim for this little mini series is basically just to have some fun with you guys and try to show you my journey as an amateur gardener, basically, and to show that anybody can do it, because it's just really fun being able to get outside. Sometimes we'll go out and we'll literally physically touch grass so you guys can feel like you've been outside even if you haven't, because sometimes that's all you need, is to feel like you're a part of nature. And something about this whole gardening experience has really actually just helped me feel more at ease with being outside. Even if I don't leave my house, I'm still here in the garden, so we're doing some stuff, touching grass, being part of nature, and it's been a lot of fun. So I just thought I'd share my experience with you guys. Throughout the series we're going to be doing a few different things. If you guys have any suggestions as we go, let me know. I'm happy to try out some different things, but we're going to be looking at some of the seedlings we've already planted, pot some things up, look at planting some new seeds because it's going to be the March sowing time very soon. We'll have a look at some of the plants we have in the garden, be they veggies or flowers, things we have like already planted in the garden, things that were here when we got here, things we've added ourselves along the way. Maybe we'll do a little houseplant tour as well, and just take a look at some green stuff, because I've been really enjoying being around the plants and just being outside. So I thought I'd just share my adventure with you guys, and if you have any tips throughout the whole journey, like, as I say, I'm a total amateur, so I am absolutely down for taking some advice from you guys and learning together. And if this is your first time gardening as well this year, or you've wanted to but you've never thought you could, maybe take this as a way of saying, like, if you want to try it, go for it. You can do it. It just takes a little bit of research and a little bit of planning. I will be able to go through some of the details if you guys want to know, like, all of the plans we've had so far, the things I've been doing to set up. We can do that as a separate video, which I can actually do from inside. I can show you guys the spreadsheet and the document, show you guys some of the websites I used to do some planning. But for now, for today, while we're here, we're going to be looking at the seedlings I planted 1 month ago in February. It's time for some of those to be potted up. And I wanted to show you some things that worked, some things that didn't, and pretty much just have some time just in the potting shed today. So let's go outside and take a look at some of the seedlings, and then we're going to bring them in here and start moving them around. So here we are with the seedlings out in the garden. We are using a temporary station right now, which was set up so we could get some things going. We have some things being painted here, as you can probably tell. Some other things going on in the garden, which we'll have a proper look at in a different episode, but we've got some trellises being painted over there. We have planter boxes being made, so there's a lot of stuff going on in the garden right now. But what I want to focus on right now is these seeds that I have going on. We do have a few which are looking a little sorry for themselves because this is the first time out in the garden. They're being held up by some straws right now, but they're going to be fine. These ones are Black-Eyed Susans, are massive drama queens, so we will have a proper look at them later on and see if they're being little divas. But what I want to have a look at today basically is all these different plants we've got and which ones have worked and which didn't, because as you can tell, some of these have been really successful and other ones not quite so much. So it is a little bit windy out here today, and I'm hoping that the seedlings are going to be okay. This is their first time ever being left outside for any period of time, but this is the beginning of them being hardened off so that they can be planted out into the garden. Some of these are going to be going out straight away, and others I've just brought out here just because there's no breeze at all in the kitchen, which is where I have been growing them. So we're just kind of leaving them out here to get a little bit of air and a little bit better sunlight, because it is a bit of a dull day today. So I thought we'd sort of get them introduced to the outdoor world. And yeah, some of them are feeling a little bit worse for wear, but we'll go into that in more detail in a little bit. So what we're really going to be focusing on today are the plants which need potting up, which is specifically our two little tomatoes over here. We have some salad tomatoes and beef tomatoes. Some of these are looking absolutely glorious and are very much ready to go. We need to split up some of these asters into smaller sections because some of them, as you can tell, are a little bit bunched up together. They were a little bit more successful than I thought they were going to be, as were quite a few of these, to be honest with you. We've got some broccolis which need putting into individual pots, and we need to split up some of our bell peppers as well. We actually have quite a few of these, and one thing that I've noticed throughout this process is actually how successful a lot of these seeds have been, and it's one of those things that I thought that they weren't going to work as well as they did, which is why I planted so many. The reason we have like so many peppers, for example, is because honestly I was thinking if I planted one it wouldn't work, if I planted two it might work, if I planted three it definitely would. So I basically planted an absolute heck ton and they basically all worked. So this is why we've ended up with so many, and we're going to be thinning them down a little bit today. And we also over here, something I need to do today is have a look at these radishes because something has been eating them. You can see this one over here. Some of them have been a little bit half eaten. So we're going to have to do a bit of investigation today and find out what's been munching away at our radishes. But we're going to start by grabbing some big pots and getting some of those tomatoes pot up. We have some topsoil and compost. We're going to be doing a little bit of a mix of the both of them today and just putting them in a slightly bigger pot so that they're ready to go outside. The tomatoes will be living over in that back corner over there with some sunflowers I'll be planting soon. So we're going to start with those. So let's go and get ourselves some pots and I will see you on the other side. So I figured we would start by one of my favourites and honestly my biggest success story when it comes to my February seedlings, which are my black-eyed Susans. I am using the Susie mix from Mr. Fothergill's, and pretty much all of the seeds that you're going to see me using throughout the series are Mr. Fothergill's or RHS. I will leave links to the websites down below, and if you want to go and have a look at the specific seedlings yourself, you will be able to go and find a list of all the things I've used down below. I really thought having some climbing plants on a trellis would be a really nice way to frame the gravel section of my garden, because we have quite a large patio section at the back of the house, but the gravel is kind of a little bit lacking in luster. The only thing we really have going on for us in that particular section is a Camellia japonica, which I only just recently learned what that was, and it's beautiful. But it's also the only thing in that section. So I thought what would be really nice is if we kind of capped it off with some of these beauties. So they are a combination of orange and white flowers with like really, really dark black in the middle. And I just thought they would be absolutely beautiful as climbers. We are going to be planting some morning glories amongst these as well. So in between all of these, you'll see some nice bluey purple colours really popping, and I think that'll be a really nice way of being able to cap off that section of the garden. So what we have going on right now is about 4 to 5 weeks worth of growth, and these are very, very tall. You've got straws which I've put in recently to support them. They are very strong when they're indoors and they're not being blown around, but the second I took them outside they were falling over, and they had been in a tray. So I began all of my seeds in trays because, as I said earlier on, I really didn't think as many seeds would work as did. So I really just thought I'll just spread a bunch of them in a tray and see what happens, and these black-eyed Susans absolutely just took off. Like, look how beautiful and tall they are. They are absolutely massive, and they are probably the biggest success story of all of the seedlings I've had so far. We do have a little bit of discoloration on some of the leaves. They all kind of have done the same thing, and I'm not sure if it's unhealthy or if it's just what happens, but a lot of these lower leaves have sort of been turning almost like a yellowish kind of colour and then just dropping off. I'm not sure if it's because they've been underwatered, but I've given them a really good drink today, and once they go out into the final spot they will get plenty of water. I think it's going to be a really, really good thing to put in the garden. But a little story that I wanted to tell you guys because it was so funny to me. When I originally put them into these trays from their seed trays, they threw the biggest fit I've ever seen in my life. They wilted so badly, they would not hold themselves up. I had all of these toothpicks that I made. Basically, I took 2 toothpicks and I sellotaped them together, and I gave every single one of these its own stand, because after repotting them into these, they just fell over and they were like, woe is me, my life is so hard, I can't do this anymore, and they just collapsed. And I really, really thought I'd killed them. I put them inside, I gave them a good water, I put them on their heat mat, and literally within an hour they were back upright again, holding themselves. Not a single one was touching the supports I put down, and they were all like, oh, lucky we didn't panic. Oh, it's fine, look at me, I'm okay. And like they were perfectly fine. And it's so funny to me, like throughout this process, learning how many of my seedlings have their own personalities. And these are so funny because, as I say, I've pointed up a few different things at this point, and these are the only ones which really struggled between their original tray and their new modules. But within an hour, put them straight back where they came from, which is the one big lesson I've learned when you pot up, is put them back where they were before you repot them. So these guys are going to be going back into the heat mat in a minute. I'm going to be taking them back inside. I just brought them outside to kind of start acclimatizing them because, like I say, as soon as these planters are ready, these bad boys are going to be going out into the garden. So I want them to start getting accustomed to being outside. It is actually very warm in this shed right now, so they're okay in here. It's actually 20 degrees. And these guys need 20 to 25 degrees as they're like growing up seedlings. So I've had these along with my aubergine seedlings in a heated propagator. So it's a heat mat underneath it. You can get them really, really cheap. And this has worked wonders. Just putting a propagator lid over the top of these while they're in their tray. Give them a little bit of air every now and then, make sure they're well watered, and these have done absolutely beautifully. These are going to be going back inside now. Say goodbye to them. They're going to be absolutely glorious, and I can't wait for you guys to see them. If you're interested, as I say, in any of these seeds, go to the website that I've linked down below, Mr. Fothergill's. All of the seedlings you're going to see in this video are from them. So if you want to know any more information, just go down to the description and find the website. So I just thought I'd show you guys the aubergines as well. Again, these are not yet ready to be pot up any further. They're going to stay in here just a little bit longer. And then eventually these will be going into grow bags, which will stay here in the shed, I think. We're going to be doing these ones alongside courgettes and peppers as well. Bell peppers, the ones that are outside there currently. Those are all going to want to be in slightly warmer conditions. So we are going to be putting those in here throughout the summer. And these ones again were kept on a heat mat in a propagator. So these ones have grown really, really well, having just a little bit of heat underneath them. Again, these ones are 20 to 25 Celsius is the recommendation for the seedlings. So we've kept them on the heat mat in front of the kitchen window, tried to give them as much good light as we can, keep them inside the propagator. And these ones have done really, really well as well. We do have a couple of little baby seedlings which have kind of snuck their way through here. I put so many in and I had to cull a bunch of seedlings down and I felt so bad. I felt like I was throwing away my children, but it was the best thing that I was able to do, honestly, because my garden is just not big enough to raise 22 aubergine plants along with everything else. But these two little doers here, let's see if I can lift them up to the camera to say hello. We have this little guy in here and then this one back here. These snuck in because I genuinely thought I had picked up 6 individual seedlings and put them in here. We have 2 little extras, so if they survive, they will be a slightly later crop. If the little one back here and the medium one back here survive, we might have some slightly late aubergines, but we'll have to see how they go. These are going to be planted into some grow bags, which I can show you now actually because we have some here in the shed. Oh, he's a fucking big bee. Oh. I just ran away for like 5 minutes because there was a massive bee in here. Oh god, my heart is going so fast. It sounds so stupid because bees are adorable and we love bees and we want them to survive and thrive, but when they're flying around my head and they're this big, no thank you. So we're going to be using these different vegetable grow bags. We have mostly fabric ones with a couple of plastic ones that came when I ordered some potatoes. They are living over here in this corner. You can't see them at the moment, but they're going to be planted out very soon. We do have some specific planters like these which have the flap at the bottom so you can get your potatoes and onions and any other kind of thing which grows low out of the bottom of the bag rather than pulling them up and out. But for the most part, we're going to be using a lot of these ones. So they have the handles on them. These are 26 litres. We have about 18 of these because I knew we were going to need quite a lot. So the aubergines and such are going to be living in bags like these, which are going to be a lot easier for us to move around because a lot of this is very much trial and error this very first year. So if we put them in the shed and they're not working in the shed because maybe it's too dry in here and we need to move them outside, we can do so. These ones are going to be pot up later. They are doing fairly well they're still in some seed compost, but I'm going to give them a little bit longer until they go out into bigger pots. Knowing that we have more seeds to plant in March, I am trying to be a bit more careful with how many different pots we use and how often I pot them up. I don't want to stress the plants up too much by doing it too often, and these ones I think are doing okay in here so far. So they're going to stay here and go back out with the black-eyed Susans. They're going to go and live out in the kitchen for a little bit longer. Next up we have got our broccoli. I'm going to be doing these in sections so that we have a few throughout the year. What date is it today? I don't know, but these were planted on February the 14th. So happy Valentine's Day, broccolis. The first plant actually that sprouted, the very first seed we had, was this guy right here. This one that we are calling Bertie. My mum named them, and they are, look at how huge and healthy these guys are. They are doing so well. So it's time to plant these up. So we're going to start with these ones today. So first thing we're going to replant today, because honestly they need it. Got this guy back here who's really struggling. So what I think I'm going to do with these is I'm actually going to only keep 3 of these, because if we're planting some more down the line, as I say, we are a little bit lacking in space, so I don't want to do too many. These actually were grown in this seedling tray originally. They've stayed in this tray the entire time, but what I did was I started with quite a lot of seeds, thinned them out, and ended up with these 4, which I've then kind of kept in the corners. We're actually going to be using a new mix today, which is going to be a combination of this all-purpose compost and topsoil. So what little I know is that you can either use just compost, as long as you get like the multi-purpose compost, or you can mix it with topsoil, which kind of helps bulk it out a little bit, and it's got slightly less nutrients. If I'm getting any of this wrong and you guys know better, please do let me know. I'm absolutely, like, as I say, it's trial and error. I am going to be looking through for little bits like this, because there have been a lot of complaints about a lot of different types of compost that have a lot of plastic, stones and glass and a lot of bits of random stuff in. So I'm going to be taking care when I go through this to make sure it's okay. For example, the seed compost I used, it's been really good in terms of nutrients, and all of my seeds have grown well, but I did find a lot of stones, and I did find one piece of glass actually in my seedlings. Didn't notice it when I first planted it, and then I was looking one day and someone's coming through the kitchen window and I was like, what is that? And it was about this big. There was a little chunk of glass that was just sitting in there. So do be aware when you're opening compost bags for the first time. Read the reviews and be really careful when you first check through. Try and run your fingers through. That's one thing I've learned. I've got messy hands already, and I should put my gloves on, which I'm going to do in just a second, but really just kind of pay attention to how much stuff there is. Especially with topsoil, there's a lot of different qualities of topsoil, depending on whether it's sifted or not sifted and stuff like that. So just read up, make sure you know what you're getting, check the reviews, and just be really careful when you start off. So you have a bunch of these different modules that are going to sit into its own tray, and you can put water and gravel in the bottom of them. I don't know if I'm going to feed them that way yet. Maybe for the sake of trial and error I will, but for right now we're just going to be taking a couple of these little square modules here. So we've got ones just like this, much bigger than what they're in currently. So we're just going to basically use this combination of topsoil and compost, give it a bit of a mix, chuck it in, and then we'll set the seedlings in. I never expected for this to go as well as it did, which is the whole reason why I have more seedlings than honestly I should have planted. If I'd have trusted myself, I could honestly have gotten away with doing a lot less. I was like, I'm a total amateur, I don't know what I'm doing. So I was like, I'm just gonna plant more, because then if one fails, then I've got a backup, and if the backup fails, there's a backup for the backup. As it turns out, things actually went a lot better than I thought they would. So that's why we've ended up with so many seedlings this year. And when it comes to the next set of sowing, I am going to be a lot more careful about how much I plant. We're going to be a lot more conservative. Let me move you over here so you can see what I'm doing over here. So we're going to be just popping stuff into this little one over here. Move that one out the way before I throw that pot all everywhere. So I filled it about 3/4 high. I might take a little bit out if I think it needs it, but I'm just going to start. There must be another way of doing this, but at the moment I'm just doing it the best way I know, which is just with my hands. So I'm just going to start here. I've tied some wool around this, just very gently, just to hold it upright. So we're going to take that one off very gently first, and then we're just going to take this little toothpick out. You see, as soon as I get rid of it, you see it's just sort of flopping over here, because I think it's just a little bit too heavy. But you see now how much stem there is here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a lot of this underneath the soil. So it'll be mostly the leaves up. So I'm hoping it's going to be a lot easier for it to hold itself upright. So I'm just going to go into this like an absolute hot mess. I'm being super gentle with the little plant itself. But I'm just kind of going to go in the soil in the middle, because I know there's nothing else in here. And I'm just going to try and loosen it up just enough There we go. Just to move a couple of these pieces out of the way. Some of these are really solid, so I'm just trying to be really careful. And basically I'm just trying to loosen the soil around it so that I can get to the root system safely. So all of its roots are in there, and I'm not going to honestly disturb this too much because the roots are really fine. So we're just going to kind of pop it in as is, settle that in nicely, and then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make sure that the roots are fully covered and make sure it's as close to the middle as I can get it. I'm trying not to compact the soil too much, but I also do want it to be strong enough to be able to hold this dude up. So just needs a little bit more around the back, I think, just to kind of support it. There we go. So that will be sat in there like that. I think that'll be good enough. And there we have it, our first little repot, and he's going to just sit back here as we do the rest of these. I'm just going to go repot all 3 of these now, and I'll see you on the other side. There we are. So I've taken 3 of the 4 seedlings. It's one at the back, as I say, I thought it's a little bit weaker. Its stem is very much bending, so unfortunately, we're going to have to say bye-bye to one of the seedlings. We just don't have enough room to have them all. These 3 are now going to have a really good, nice water, and they're going to go back in the window. If anybody's curious which broccoli we're using here, we have the Autumn Covina here. Again, Mr. Fothergill's. So we're going to take these inside now, pop these back inside, bring up the tomatoes, so I'll see you in a moment. Alrighty, next up on the agenda is our tomatoes. Now, I have done beef tomatoes and salad tomatoes, and these ones were done from the seed packets, which again, Mr. Fothergill's, we have the Super Steak F1 tomato variant. But the salad tomatoes that you'll see coming up after this, actually I did just straight from the fruit, and they worked just as well. I did have some moneymaker seeds that my sister gave to me like last year, and I couldn't find them anywhere, so we ended up going straight from the fruit, and it worked out really well. So what we're going to do with these ones is, again, same sort of pot as the last ones. These are fairly deep modules, but the pots down here are a lot deeper. So what we're going to be able to do is, because you see how long some of these little bits of stems are here, one trick that I've learned in my research is if they get kind of, I think the term here is leggy, correct me if I'm wrong please, but they start basically reaching for the sun and they go really tall. And one trick I read is that you basically just sink it down. So where the soil level is right now, you see it's all the way down here, but I will put soil all the way up till about here maybe, push it down really deep, and basically bury some more of this stem and only have leaves poking out the top, or at least mostly leaves. But in terms of success stories, these are probably my biggest success after the Black-Eyed Susans. Look how many leaves these guys have got, and if you guys have ever had fresh tomatoes in your garden, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But we have a lot of these little sort of hairy, they're kind of hairy leaves. And see if I can get them right up close to the camera here for you to have a good look. So you see you've got these really hairy leaves on top. These have a very distinct smell, and I kind of love the smell. To a lot of people it's not that pleasant, but I actually really like it. Again, it's going to be a real shame to lose some of these, but tomato plants grow so much that 6 plants of these and 6 salad tomatoes is going to be way too much. So I've decided what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep the 3 strongest beef tomatoes and the 3 strongest salad tomatoes, and that's going to be more than enough. I've never really grown too much myself at home, but one of the things I did grow back in my old house was tomatoes, and they were little cherry tomatoes, and we did one small plant and it almost overtook the entire garden. So tomato plants do have a habit of kind of just exploding. So that's why, again, I don't want to have too many. These are going to be done in grow bags. I'm making an absolute mess of things over here, but that's the way to be done in the garden, right? You got to make a lot of mess. But basically, that one completely overtook the garden. So doing these in grow bags, I think, is hopefully going to kind of contain them a little bit. They're not going to be able to spread too deeply into the ground. And we're going to try and keep an eye on picking fruit as often as we can. Now, one thing I am hoping to be able to do is I'm going to see with some food banks. We have some local food banks, and I'm going to see whether or not they will accept fresh food. I don't know if they do. I haven't looked into it. I know they accept things like canned food and dried pastas and stuff like that. But if they do accept fresh food, what would be really nice is to kind of go down to the food bank with some of the excess food. Because this already, I can tell you right now, is going to be way too much for us. And I'll start obviously with like friends and family. I'll check with neighbours and see if anybody wants anything. But outside of that, what I would love to do is go see whether or not food banks will accept fresh crops, and basically just go down there like every couple of weeks with the bag of like a couple of excess tomatoes, you know, if you've got some extra peppers and, you know, some radishes and stuff, just things that have grown, see whether or not I can put together like a little care package for some people. I don't know if they accept it, but I think it would be a really nice idea. So what I'm going to try and do here, it's going to be a little bit complicated to do on camera while I'm talking, but what I'm going to try and do is just sort of pop this module out, and then I'm going to try and see if I can sort through and get a little bit of this seed compost off, because this is still seed mix. This is our topsoil and all-purpose compost mix, and I think these are probably big enough now that they don't need the seed compost anymore. So I'm going to try and pop them out individually. I got a little overexcited this year, which is why we have so much, and it's why it's taking me a little while to kind of work through it. But it's all a bit of trial and error. It's all a bit of learning, isn't it? So let's get these into their new pots, and I'll see you once they're in the pots on the other side. So you've got nice long roots in this one. I've not broken it up too much in here because, again, I don't want to damage too much of the roots. But I'm just going to pop this right down in the centre of one of these. Hold it by the leaves and not the stem is what I have heard. So we're not going to hold it by the stem. I'm holding it as gently as I possibly can as well. It might look like I'm gripping it quite hard, but I promise you I'm not. You know, taking a look at this, I reckon I can probably get this a little bit deeper. So I might redo this one, and I'll make sure these ones go a bit deeper as well, because I want to make sure I cover almost probably another half of this stem, I think. At least this is what I'm going off of based on a YouTube video I watched that said to basically just like push the stem down and keep it covered. There we go. And I think that's a bit better. We'll leave it kind of at that sort of state now. That's enough of the stem covered. I think that I'm happy with that. So I'm going to do the same with the other three, and I will be back with you once they're done. Alrighty, so all three of them are done, and the bent is looking like a bit of a hot mess right now. But if you're not making a mess in the garden, you ain't doing it right. So these these are the seedlings that we have left that we basically took out and didn't use. And the reason I chose not to use these ones in comparison to the other three, honestly, was just that they didn't seem to have a very strong root system. And I don't know how much that matters, but the three that I put in had really long roots, whereas these kind of, especially this middle one here, it's very, very compact and not a lot of root there at all. So I just thought, go with the ones that have the biggest roots. Maybe that gives it more of a chance to survive. I'm not sure, but these three little babies are going to go back inside now. They've got a nice deep little hole where I've buried the stems a little bit, and hopefully that's going to help them grow. We're going to give them a nice bit of water, put them back inside now, and do the exact same thing with the salad tomatoes. So this is where we've gotten so far. We have our 3 beef tomatoes, our 3 salad tomatoes, and our 3 broccoli, which, to be honest, are already kind of looking a little bit sad. So I think what I'm going to do is we're going to give these a little bit of a water now and put them back inside. Just kind of let them chill out again, like where they originally were, and they should be all right. We have some more things to repot, but for right now, we're going to go pop these inside. Next, we're going to have a look at some of the flowers, because we need to split some asters up, and we also need to find out what's going on with my Delphiniums, because only 2 or 3 of them sprouted, and they're looking kind of sad. So we're going to have a look at those next. I don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to flowers. Veggies, I don't really know either, but I've got a little bit more experience with growing food. We did some strawberries and some peppers in the old house, and I've grown some leeks and tomatoes before, so with these I feel a little more confident. With the flowers though, it's all new territory, so let's go and have a look at those next. Alrighty, it's actually a few days later because I had a bunch of other stuff I needed to do in between, but we are back out in the shed and we have the peppers we need to sort. Again, as I say, did not expect any of these to work as well as they did. So we have about 25 plants in here, and I do not have room for 25 plants. So I'm going to be choosing the best 6 and putting them into one of these trays here, because we have the aubergines we have 6 of. And honestly, I don't think we can cope with more than 6 of each plant. Honestly, 6 is probably still too much. We're going to be using these sweet colour spectrum ones from Mr. Fothergill's, and I'm hoping we're going to get a few different kind of colour ones as they come up eventually. We use peppers a lot in this household, so honestly, like, if we have more plants than we can like feasibly take care of, it's fine, they will get used. This one's actually grown really well in the seeding mix, to be honest with you. They've got quite a few strong leaves coming through. A couple of the little stragglers here we're just going to have to leave behind. So again, we're going to be using the same mix of the Miracle Grow compost and the topsoil. So I'm going to go and get that mix ready, and then we're going to choose the 6 strongest and get them potted up. And right here at the very end, as I'm about to finish potting the peppers, I find one tiny little guy. And this is just its seed at the top here, where it's tried valiantly to come through at the last moment, and it has not made the cut, I'm afraid. I do want to see though if I can save this creature, because I have a few of these growing in some of my seedlings in various different pots. And I have no idea what these are. They have little red stems, and the leaves look different to anything I've planted, and I have no idea what they are. So I might see if I can save one of these and see what it grows into. I'm just very curious. So I'm just going to take one of these cardboard cups here, and we're going to fill it with some soil and put the seedling in, just sort of see what happens. I'll update you if I ever figure it out. It looks rather sad in here, but honestly this is the best I can do because it's just flopping over no matter what I do here. So I'm just going to give it a good water and see if it perks up. Maybe it'll turn into something. If not, well, at least we'll hopefully maybe find out, but I don't know. It's an interesting little guy just randomly in here. But in the process, what we did do is we got the 6 strongest that I could find. There are a couple of them that are very similar, but some of them the roots snapped while I was trying to get them out. That's my fault for being too heavy-handed. But I managed to get the rest of these out cleanly, so they're going to go and live inside. Alrighty, it is time to move on to the flowers. I've got a couple of things I need to repot from these, but of the flowers and things that aren't food that I've been planting, the Asters honestly have been the most successful. They've taken off. Some of them are popping up a little bit late still. You see down here we've got one tiny little baby one that's coming through, and they've been growing so well. And honestly, the reason I got these are not only just to make the garden pretty, but also particularly the Asters, because these are a dedication to my late sister who passed away about 3 years ago at this point, and one of her nicknames that she liked to use for a lot for her D&D characters and characters she made in games and stuff was Aster. One of her main characters was Aster Rochelle, and she, as her character, helped my character out a lot of the time, and she was very free-spirited, loved to travel, as did my sister, and as a dedication to her in the garden, I wanted to plant some flowers for her. So it's one of the reasons we're doing the Asters this year, and we have gone with the Duchess mixed. So there's going to be quite a lot of different colours in here, I'm hoping. Large blooms, it says, for borders and cutting, so we're going to be able to have some cut flowers from these, and they have been very, very successful. Some of them have been quite grouped together. You might not be able to see it from here, but we have like 4 or 5 in this one little corner back here. I can kind of do a close-up later on if we need to, but pretty much what I'm going to be doing with these is something a little bit different to the rest of them. So I have been collecting toilet rolls. We have a whole box full of these because one thing I saw as a sort of a little trick to kind of recycle these and also make use of them is to pretty much use these as potters. So what we're going to be doing is cutting these in half and plonking them into the tray like side by side in their half modules, and we're going to split some of these Asters up. They're probably going to stay in this tray, but they'll have new compost. What we're going to do is we're going to cut some of these in half, and then we're going to start repotting some of these. In my research, I've not seen anything that specifies anything like ericaceous soil or anything like that, so we're going to be using the same mix we're using for the veggies, just topsoil and compost. My dogs are going manic in the garden, just ignore them, I do. But we're going to be moving these on now, so let me go grab some scissors and we'll cut these in half. So this is going to be roughly the size they're going to be, not too deep, but just enough to split these off, and like I say, we're going to put them in here like this, just kind of pop them next to each other and make a few of these. So let's cut some up and see how many we can get. Oh, that one went flying. I'm not being too precise with these. I'm just kind of finding a roughly middle point and just snapping them in half. That one went flying a little bit as well, but it's fine. So let me finish up the rest of these, and then we're going to get a new tray and get some compost and start moving them. What I might do is leave some space over here because we do need to replant a couple of my Delphiniums. They are looking a little bit sorry for themselves, but we'll have a look at those in a minute. So what I might be able to do is, if I can get enough of the Asters into these, we might have some space over here. We can put some of the Delphiniums and other things in this same tray. So let's start getting our potting mix together, and then we'll start digging up some of these Asters. Look, is it pretty? No, not really. Is it going to work? Honestly, I don't know that either, to be honest. I'm going to have to find out, and I'll do it so you guys don't have to. So basically we just filled it all with our potting mix. Obviously the gaps are full of compost as well. It seems like a little bit of a waste, but anything that's left over that doesn't get used to grow with, I can just recycle and put into the next lot. So anything that's in between and not used is fine. Can we reuse compost, by the way? Because I actually don't know. I have reused some, whether or not they've actually had enough nutrients, I don't know. But for example, this tray of asters that we're going to be using here, that's a lot of compost in there. Can we use this again? I'm going to obviously take the asters out, or has all of the nutrients gone at this point? Let me know what you think. I would love to know, because honestly if we can get 2 lots of seed grows out of 1 lot of compost, that would be fantastic. But for now, what we need to do is start poking out some of these asters. And yeah, they look like they've got like a fairly thin root system, not too many, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Let's pop this little guy in here, and if this doesn't seem like this is going to be enough room, I can just take this soil out and sort it a bit differently. The biggest problem I'm finding here actually is that my hands don't fit. So let's pop this just in here, being as gentle as I can. I'm trying to poke it in with something. So let's just put a tiny little bit extra compost on the top. There we go. I'm just trying to be very gentle with him. There we go. Yeah, right in there. And there we go. We have one little guy in there. So I'm going to continue doing that with the rest of these. I'm trying to be as careful as I can because I don't want to destroy any of the roots, but mostly they just need little houses of their own, so let's get this apartment complex going. Some of these I might put together to see what happens, because it looks like the roots of some of them have grown together because they're so close, and you know, if they're besties or they're lovers, I might as well keep them together. These two look like they are pretty much together, so we'll see what happens if we put 2 in one module. This is all experimentation. We have so many seedlings, we can afford to put a couple of them together, so let's make a couple of doubles and leave them as friends together. I think that'll be very, very cute. Alrighty, so this is where we're at with them. I do still have a handful left in the tray. Let's have a quick look at what we have left over. So this is what we have left. Still quite a few of them, but honestly I want to make sure I can get the other ones in here first, because as I say, I have some Delphiniums, and I also have some like Coleus, which seem like they're growing very, very slowly. But my thought is maybe if they have a little bit more room and some better compost, maybe they'll grow a bit better. So we're going to leave the rest of these asters as they are for now. Oh, there's a hole in here. I actually missed one, so I can put one more in here. So I'm going to go do that, go and grab the Delphiniums, and then we'll go and have a look at what we have left. We're so close to the end, and it feels like we've been here forever. But we are almost done, and then it's going to be time for the March planting, which is going to be a new episode. I hope you guys are interested, and if there's anything you want to see when I do my planting of my seedlings, let me know. I'm going to try and get this video out before I do the planting, so let me know in the comments down below if there's anything you want to see me do in that seed planting video, and if you have any advice or any comments on what we've been doing so far, just let me know. So let me go and grab the flowers and we'll get this finished. Now we are on to the problem child, our Delphiniums, which I think are going to look absolutely stunning if we can get them to grow. But the problem that I'm having with these is that they are a hot mess. And I do mean that literally. I think I might have accidentally cooked them a little bit, because we had a string of really, really warm weather and I was keeping these on the windowsill for the best light. And these are of the seedlings that I had. These are the ones that needed the lowest temperature. And I know the soil is looking very dry right now. I did water it the other day, so I only watered around where the seeds have come through. But don't worry, they're going to get a new home today. And I think it just got so hot that they just didn't really grow properly. I tried my best to keep them moist, and I definitely had them too hot. They said on the packet 15 to 18 degrees C, and I had them in the window where my thermometer, probably falsely, was telling me it was going up to 37 degrees C. This guy has quite a lot of little leaves on him, but it's a bit sad, kind of falling over a little bit. We have one here with 3 spokes on it, and then one over in the corner that's very floppy, and then we have a couple of other random things. I think this is a Delphi that's tried its best to come through. This one looks like a Coleus. I don't know how it's gotten in here, but that one looks like one of my other ones, which we'll see next. They are the Pacific Giants mixed. Good for borders, and honestly, if they can make good cut flowers as well, they'll be really, really pretty. I know I've had some Delphiniums before in flower bouquets that I bought for my mum. I did read somewhere that they are one of the flowers that represent July, and that's when her birthday is. So hopefully if I can save some of these, we can have some really pretty July purple flowers out in the garden, but I'm not sure if I can save them. We're going to try our best. We're just going to have to see what happens. They are very, very delicate, so I'm kind of a little bit worried for these. I'm honestly not expecting them to survive in this compost mix, but if they do randomly decide to start thriving, that would be excellent. I think I used all of the seeds in this though, which is why I'm a little concerned, because only 3 or 4 of them have started to come up. And my worry, as I say, is that I accidentally got them too hot. So there are a few of their seeds still somewhere in this compost, but like, yeah, I don't know where they are. I'm not sure what the seeds look like. None of them have really grown. So we're going to try our best, if we can, to loosen up some of the soil and extract these. I'm just trying to push it away from the roots a little bit. Scoop it up. Hello, there you are. Oh, I've got you, don't you worry. Sometimes I like to talk to them like children, make them feel better, but this is one of the ones we have. The roots are kind of looking okay, they're not too bad, but it's looking a little bit unhappy. This is probably one of the only real, I would say, failures in terms of the things that have grown so far, because everything else has had at least, like, I mean, I don't know, like a handful of stuff that have worked. Even the Coleus, they're growing slowly, but there's a lot of them. These ones, there's so few, and I'm so worried that I've done this wrong, and they're really delicate, and I'm so scared of breaking them. We're gonna try and get this one out as well. This is the biggest one, but he's also very floppy. So let's get some of the soil around the roots broken up a little bit so we can pick him up. There we go. So again, you can see like a lot of leaves on this one, but it's very floppy. So we're going to be super delicate and get this one put in. I'm hoping if I just talk very gently to these ones, they're going to suddenly be like, you know what, actually, I think I want to survive. We'll see what happens. But then the only other one which has actually come up properly out of the soil, like I think there are still, as I say, some seeds in here somewhere, is this little guy over here. You can see how bent it is because literally as it was in there, it sort of went sideways. And this is the only other one that I've seen grown properly. We have one teeny tiny little seedling doer in here. Maybe I might try and rescue that one as well and see what happens. But I think honestly, these 3 are going to be the best chance we're going to have at having any success with our Delphiniums this year. If anybody's ever grown Delphiniums before, I'll absolutely love to hear your advice and your stories and how you've managed to get them to work. And honestly, any stories of your seedlings. Is this your first year doing gardening? Have you done it before? You might be a seasoned expert, you might be a complete novice like me, but in any case, if we're getting out in the garden, there's never a bad time to do some gardening. So I'd love to hear what you guys are up to and what your gardening experience is. If you have any advice or if you have any questions, please do let me know. I'm absolutely down for trying to just have conversations and learn from each other. So these are the final things we have to repot today. These are our Coleus flame dancers, and these, as far as I'm aware, do not have flowers, they just are leaves. So they are good for indoors or outdoor plants. So depending on how these go, they might end up staying inside and being a little house plant that I have. But they have these beautiful red and orange and yellow colours with this like kind of green, almost serrated outside, and they're absolutely beautiful. Pretty much I have the same thing with these guys as we had with the Delphiniums. They looked like they were growing pretty well, and then at some point they just kind of stopped, and now it looks like some of them maybe are kind of working their way up a little bit more. So I'm hoping what we can do is put some of these into some of these modules, and hopefully we're going to be able to help them survive. I'm excited about these ones. If these work, these are going to be really nice. As I say, they're good for indoor and outdoor plants. These, if you have a look at these ones, you can sow these pretty much any time of the year. Like, sow indoors anytime, plant out May through June. So we're going to have these as indoor plants for a little bit longer. And if we don't have any room in the garden for these, that's fine. Like I say, they are good for indoor plants as well. So we're just going to kind of dig a few of these out, fill some more of these up, put some compost into these little pots, and let's see if they grow in here. I would love to have some extra indoor plants. Like, we are going to be doing a house plant tour at some point, and if these end up staying as indoor plants, like maybe we can include them in the tour as well. Obviously we would have seen a little bit of them today, but it's going to really depend on how these decide to grow. Here we are, our little baby doer. If the camera will focus, there we go. So these are going to be really beautiful. They're so small that I don't want to put them too deep. So we filled the modules quite high, and I'm going to just put like the tiniest little sprinkling of extra soil on top here. So let's just pop him on top. Little extra soil around it. I'm actually going to have to take my gloves off for this because it's so small. It's really hard to grab hold of and do gently. I'm going to end up with messy fingers. I'm wearing gloves to try and avoid this, but to be honest, at this point, it's so delicate of a procedure that I might just have to use my bare hands. There we go. So we have just one little tiny one in there. We're going to do the same with as many of these as we can get out. I will see you on the other side once this tray is full. Alright, this is the finished tray. We did get a couple of little sneaky Coleus in here because I tried to find a way to move it over because I wanted to put some extra Coleus in there and I couldn't figure out a way to do it without all the soil falling out. So I've just snuck a little cheeky little doer in there, and for a couple of these, like this one over here and the two over here, we have got a couple of them in there where it's just like, you know what? They work together, the roots were almost tangled, so let's just see if we can get a couple of extra ones in there. I might just poke a couple of little holes inside some of these where there's a couple of little bit extra spaces and just pop an extra little Coleus in there just to see if we can save them. They're all looking a little bit sorry for themselves at the moment because they need a good water and to be put back to where they belong. So I'm going to finish up here and let's have a quick look at the radishes. Basically I'm just going to give these good water and put them back in the sunlight. So I'll see you in a moment. And the very last thing I have left to show you then is the radishes, which have been inside since I started filming. I said before that we had like a little bit of a break in between, and these have been in the shed pretty much since then, and it looks like nothing's gotten into the shed to eat them any further than they already were. But like some of these are fairly bad. Let me see if I can show you these close up. So you see you've got a few little ones back here. They've got some holes in. Some of them have been like truly munched. Look at these. Oh, the poor little babies. But yeah, I had a little poke around to see if any of them had grown yet because, as you can probably see, they have been in here since February the 18th. It is now March 31st. And I, from what I've seen, expected there to be a little bit more in here than there is. But you can see where, you might be able to see where some of the soil has been disturbed here. I poked my finger all the way down to see whether or not there was pretty much any fruit or anything solid I could feel under that, and it was just root. I'm going to leave these a little bit longer to see if they'll do anything, but they haven't really grown past this stage in kind of a while. It's been very slow going, and I'm wondering if maybe it was just a little bit too cold when I originally planted these out. So what we're going to do is just going to leave these sort of outside again, see whether or not they start getting eaten again. If they do get eaten, then we need to kind of keep an eye on that. I have plenty more seeds and I need to be careful with how I show you these because the packet is open, but these are our sparkler number 3s, the easy crisp summer radishes according to this, and I'm really looking forward to these. I started to learn to enjoy them by cutting them up really thin. I think I was just using like cider vinegar or something like that just to do a little bit of pickling and then putting it on rice bowls with like some tofu and sometimes I do it with salmon bowls, and they're really nice just to kind of have. So I'm looking forward to trying some of these. So we've got lots and lots of these seeds left. Let's see, can I show you how many seeds are in here? You're getting a nice in-depth view into my seed bag here. We have quite a lot of these left over, so whatever doesn't work as this, we will have more opportunities to do. Once it hits about April 18th, you know it's been in there for 8 weeks, and at that point 8 weeks should have been enough for these to grow. So if they haven't grown in that time, it's probably safe to assume they're not going to, but we'll see what happens. We're going to put some more in, as I say, next time we do our sowing, which is probably going to be the next video you're going to see on the channel. So, as I say, if there's anything else you want to see, let me know. I will give you updates on all of these ones if you want to see more. But for now, we need to tidy up my desk. I've made an absolute mess. So let me tidy this up and then I will take you inside to have a look at the final products. And here we are, the finished product. So we have our bell peppers here. We have 6 of them that we saved. They've had a nice good drink and are now soaking up the sun. We've got our black-eyed Susans, very tall, living their best lives. They're almost ready to go out into the garden, so those will be going out very soon. Our aubergines are doing so very well, and this little seedling, which is growing up. I took out the other little one that was in there, but I've left this guy in there in case he grows. Good luck, little one. Then we've got this big tray of all of our asters. We have some Coleus in there. I think I might have missed a pot. I don't know where. I think it's like over here somewhere. There's like one pot I forgot to put something in, but it's fine. But we doubled up some of the Coleus, so we've got a couple of extras in there. And because I had a couple of extra asters I wanted, I'll just put them in a little pot by themselves. We'll see what happens. Then we've got our tomatoes and our broccoli over here, just loving life, soaking up the sun. and they are going to be ready to go outside in not too very long. And then we also have these little extra doers that I found an extra one of, so we've planted these up and we're going to see what happens with these ones. If anyone happens to know what these are, please do let me know. I am very curious, but otherwise we'll see what happens together. So thank you for coming along on this journey with me. This has been my little passion project, and I appreciate everybody for just hanging in there with me, just enjoying it with me. If there's anything you want to know, let me know. Ask any questions you want to know about any of these plants we've got. Links to the websites where I got the seeds will be down in the description. As I say, pretty much all of them are Mr. Fothergills that we're using here, and anything else we use in the future that aren't from them, I will let you know where I've got them. But for now, thank you so much for being here. If there's anything you want to see in the upcoming video, which is probably the next one is going to be our late March seedling planting, which to be honest is probably going to be early April at this point, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to get this video out as soon as I can and then get straight on it. So let me know what you would like to see in future videos for gardening. And if there's anything else that you want to tell me, advice or anything, as I say, I am an amateur gardener, please let me know. For now though, thank you so much for being here and hanging out for this little passion project of mine. I've been having a lot of fun doing it, and I hope you've been having fun watching. As I say, we're going to do a few little episodes like this where we're going to be doing some extra seed sowing, going out and doing progress videos in the garden of where everything is. We'll do harvesting videos when it comes to it, and we're going to do a houseplant tour as well. You might have seen a little sneak peek of one that's over that way, but shh, that's next time. If you want to see where that is, you'll have to tune in, but for now, thanks for being here. And if you want to see more, let me know what you would like to see. For now though, thank you so much for watching. Please leave your comments, suggestions and feedback down below, and remember, it's always tea time somewhere in the world. Bye bye.